For the first time in over 30 years, a brand new British tank just fired its gun on British soil. January 2026, an undisclosed Ministry of Defense range. A crew climbs into the Challenger 3, loads the main gun, and fires. The last time Britain test-fired a brand new main battle tank at home, the Soviet Union still existed. Margaret Thatcher was in power. That's how long it's been. And the moment it happened, the entire defense world turned to look. Not because of what the Challenger 3 has done. It hasn't fought a single battle. It won't be fully operational until 2027. So why does everyone suddenly care about a tank that's never seen combat? Because to understand why the Challenger 3 matters, you have to start with a different tank. The one Russia has been trying, and failing, to kill in Ukraine for 3 years straight. The tank that simply won't die. This is its story, and the story of the monster Britain built to replace it. January 2023, Britain announces it's sending 14 Challenger 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine. 14! In a war of thousands of tanks. The experts lined up to write the obituary before the tanks even arrived. Too heavy at 64 tons. An old rifled gun that couldn't fire standard NATO ammunition. Only 14 of them. A rounding error on a battlefield this size. Russian media practically pre-wrote the headline, "The invincible British tank is about to meet its match." Then the tanks reached the front with Ukraine's 82nd Air Assault Brigade. And something annoying happened, for the Russians anyway. The thing wouldn't die. Russia threw everything at these 14 tanks. Drones, missiles, mines, artillery, helicopter rockets. 3 years of trying. And the Challenger 2 kept doing the one thing a tank is supposed to do above all else. It kept its crew alive. So what makes this tank so hard to kill? It comes down to 2 letters the British keep classified. DA, Dorchester armour. Dorchester armour is second-generation Chobham, and its exact composition is a British state secret to this day. What we know: composite ceramic tiles, silicon carbide and alumina, layered inside a metal framework. Roughly twice as effective against incoming rounds as the rolled steel armor on a lot of Russian tanks. In Ukraine, that armor stopped being a specification and became a legend. In 2024, a Russian attack helicopter fired a rocket at a Ukrainian Challenger 2. The warhead struck and burned 720 millimeters deep into the tank, nearly 3/4 of a meter of penetration. On most tanks, that's a dead crew and a column of black smoke. Instead, in the words of the tank commander, the damage was 720 millimeters deep, but the crew inside survived. The tank could still move and complete its mission. A helicopter rocket buried itself 3/4 of a meter into the armor, and the tank kept fighting. That wasn't a one-off. A separate Challenger 2 took a direct hit from a Russian Kornet anti-tank missile, one of the most feared anti-armor weapons Russia fields. The vehicle was knocked out. Every crew member survived, climbed out and walked away. Now, here's what makes this genuinely remarkable. Because Ukraine isn't Iraq. It isn't some lopsided fight against an outgunned enemy. It is the single deadliest environment for armored vehicles in the history of warfare. This is a war that's destroyed over 4,000 Russian armored vehicles. A war defined by cheap FPV kamikaze drones that hunt tanks from above. Loitering munitions that wait patiently for a target. Precision strikes that hit the thin top armor and the engine deck, the weak spots every tank on Earth has. If the Challenger 2's reputation was going to shatter, this is where it should have shattered. And yet, again and again, the same story came back from the 82nd Brigade. Tank hit, crew survives, tank often keeps fighting. But survival is only half of why Ukrainian crews fell in love with this thing. The other half is what it does to the Russians on the receiving end. Watch this. Ukrainian crews gave the Challenger 2 a nickname. They call it the Sniper, because its rifled 120mm gun, paired with a fire control computer that compensates for wind and humidity, let one Ukrainian crew strike a Russian armored vehicle from 5,300 meters away. That's over 3 miles. A tank hitting another vehicle from 3 miles out. A Challenger 2 commander named Alexander, a welder before the war, put it simply: it works like a sniper. The crews use those world-class optics and that long-range accuracy to find Russian vehicles, fortifications, and positions, hit them from a distance where Russia can't effectively shoot back, and then relocate before the drones come hunting. And here's a detail that says everything. That same commander said he once sat inside an American Abrams and didn't like it, too cramped. The Challenger 2 gave his crew room to fight, and more importantly, room to survive. Ukrainian tankers, who could have any Western tank, praised the British one for keeping them alive. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, it isn't perfect, and the Russians have landed some blows. The 64-ton weight and 1,200 horsepower engine mean it bogs down in Ukraine's notorious mud, and crews have openly asked for a more powerful engine. A few have been lost, the first near Robotyne in 2023, hit by artillery while the crew was fighting a fire. But notice the pattern even in the losses. The crews almost always walk away. That is the entire philosophy of the machine. Protect the people inside, no matter what. Russia has spent 3 years trying to reliably kill this tank. They've mostly failed. So you'd assume Britain would be thrilled with it. They're not. They're replacing it. Here's the twist that makes this whole story click into place. Britain is taking the tank Russia can't kill and replacing it with something built specifically to be even harder. And the reason why is the single most important lesson of the entire Ukraine war. The Challenger 2 is tough, but tough has a ceiling. Ukraine proved that even the best armor on Earth can eventually be defeated if a drone hits exactly the right spot. The top, the engine deck, the thin places. Surviving a hit is good, but what if the tank could stop the hit from ever landing in the first place? That is the entire philosophy behind the Challenger 3. Britain looked at 3 years of Ukraine and concluded that the next tank can't just absorb punishment, it has to refuse to be hit. Survivability wasn't enough anymore. They wanted invulnerability. And that's exactly what that first live fire in January 2026 was really about. It wasn't just a test. It was Britain announcing it's back in the tank business, with a machine designed from the ground up to dominate the exact battlefield we're watching in Ukraine right now. So what makes the Challenger 3 worse news for Russia than the tank they already can't kill? 3 things. First, the gun. The Challenger 2's rifled cannon was a legendary sniper, but it couldn't fire standard NATO ammunition, and Britain had stopped manufacturing the shells. The Challenger 3 abandoned 70 years of British tradition and mounts the 120mm L55A1 smoothbore, the same gun as the German Leopard 2 A7. It fires the newest kinetic energy penetrators and programmable airburst rounds that can be told exactly when to explode, ideal for shredding a drone, infantry behind cover, or armor, all on command. And it can finally share ammunition with every NATO ally. Second, and this is the big one, the Challenger 3 carries the Trophy Active Protection System, built by Israel's Rafael, combat-proven. It uses radar to detect an incoming missile, rocket, or drone, and then it fires back, destroying the threat in mid-air before it ever touches the tank. Remember that 720mm hit the Challenger 2 barely survived? The Challenger 3 is designed so that hit never connects. It doesn't just take the punch, it knocks the punch out of the air. Third, the brain. The Challenger 2 ran first-generation thermal sights, 2 generations behind the Russian T-90M. The Challenger 3 gets a 90 million pound set of next-generation Thales sights, a fully digitized turret, and a true hunter-killer capability, where the commander hunts the next target while the gunner kills the current one. It plugs into the networked battlefield, sharing targeting data with drones, artillery, and other tanks in real time. A NATO-standard gun, a radar shield that shoots incoming missiles out of the sky, a digital brain wired into the entire battlefield. Every threat that was finally starting to endanger the Challenger 2 in Ukraine is exactly what the Challenger 3 was built to defeat. But here's where it gets genuinely contentious, because for all that capability, the Challenger 3 has one number hanging over it that splits the experts right down the middle. Britain is building just 148 of them. 148. And depending on who you ask, that number is either brilliant or borderline reckless. Here's the case that it's a mistake. The United States fields thousands of Abrams. Russia started this war with thousands of tanks and has burned through more than 4,000 armored vehicles. And it's still fighting, because it can replace them. Critics argue that 148 tanks, no matter how advanced, simply can't be in every place they're needed in a major European war. If even a handful break down or get lost, that's a serious chunk of your entire national tank fleet gone. In a war of attrition, quantity has a quality all its own, and 148 is not quantity. Now, here's the case that it's genius. Ukraine just proved that massed tank charges are suicide. Russia threw thousands of tanks at Ukrainian lines and lost over 4,000 of them precisely because it fought with quantity over quality, sending wave after wave into drone kill zones. In the drone age, a tank that survives, hides, and strikes with precision is worth more than 10 tanks that charge and burn. Britain's bet is that 148 nearly untouchable, drone-shielded, networked tanks are more valuable than 1,000 vulnerable ones. Quality over quantity taken to its logical extreme. So which is it? Is Britain building the perfect tank for the future of war, or a handful of gold-plated museum pieces that can't cover a real front line? That argument is raging in every defense forum on the internet right now. And honestly, nobody will know who's right until these tanks face their first real test. What makes the Challenger 3 more than just a British story is its timing, which is almost accidental and almost perfect. For decades, Western tanks were built around one idea: the massed charge. Speed, aggression, breaking through enemy lines. Then, Ukraine killed that idea. Tanks that charge in the open get spotted by drones and destroyed before they reach anything. The tank that survives now is the one that hides, shoots from extreme range, shrugs off what it can't avoid, and shoots down what it can. The Challenger 3, heavy armor, a drone-killing shield, precision long-range fire, networked sensors, is almost perfectly built for that new reality. And it's not alone. The American M1E3 is being rebuilt lighter and smarter around the same lessons. Germany is upgrading its Leopards. Every major army on Earth is scrambling to redesign armor for a battlefield that didn't exist 5 years ago. The Challenger 3 is one of the first of this new generation to reach live fire testing, which means the whole world is watching it as a test case. If it works, it validates an entire philosophy of future warfare. The Challenger 2 survived the drone age by accident. The Challenger 3 is the first tank built to beat it on purpose. So let me bring this full circle because the stakes here are bigger than one tank. Russia spent 3 years learning a brutal lesson in Ukraine. The Challenger 2 is extraordinarily hard to kill. 14 tanks sent in 2023, and despite an onslaught of drones, missiles, mines, and helicopter rockets, the British armor kept Ukrainian crews alive again and again. The tank earned a reputation Russian propaganda could never quite tear down. Now imagine Russia's position going forward. The tank they struggled to kill is being replaced by one with a radar shield that destroys incoming missiles before impact, a NATO-standard gun firing programmable rounds, and a digital brain wired into a web of drones and sensors. Every weapon that finally started to threaten the Challenger 2, the top attack drones, the precision missiles, is precisely what the Challenger 3 was engineered to defeat. And in September 2026, the British Army will publicly debut the Challenger 3 at Army Expo in London. Every defense ministry on Earth, Moscow's included, will be studying it frame by frame. So here's the full picture. The Challenger 2 walked into the deadliest anti-tank environment in human history, Ukraine, and refused to die. It survived a 720mm helicopter rocket hit. It survived a Kornet missile. It struck Russian vehicles from 3 miles away. And through 3 years of drones, mines, and missiles, it kept bringing its crews home alive. And instead of resting on the toughest tank reputation in the world, Britain built its successor, a tank designed not just to survive the drone age, but to win it. The catch? Only 148 of them. Either the smartest bet in modern armored warfare, or a dangerous gamble on quality over quantity. The Challenger 3 hasn't fired a shot in anger. It might not for years. But in a world rewriting the rules of armored warfare in real time, it's become the tank everyone is watching to see what comes next. Russia spent 3 years failing to kill the old one. Now they have to figure out the new one. So here's my question for you. 148 Challenger 3s. Is that a genius quality over quantity move? Or a dangerous mistake that leaves Britain with too few tanks to matter? Drop your verdict in the comments. I read every single one. And subscribe, because when the Challenger 3 debuts at Army Expo this September, I'll break down every detail the second it goes public.